So in the next lesson we see that God moved on to dealing with Satan, the serpent, and it says God then promised that a special offspring of Eve would someday conquer Satan because of Satan's evil participation in Adam and Eve's disobedience. And this is found in Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. And it says, "So the Lord God said to the serpent, 'Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel.'" So God made some changes with the serpent. He said that he was going to crawl on his belly and eat dust. Now we don't know exactly what the serpent was like before, but obviously he didn't crawl on his belly before and eat dust. And so you can try and debate about what he was like, but really we just don't know exactly. Was God simply, with this punishment, creating some sort of hostility between people and snakes? I think that definitely exists, because I don't like snakes. And I guess snakes don't like humans either. They're just scared of them, and they only bite when they're scared, all that. But no, something much more significant was happening here. The seed of the woman would be a representative of the human race. That's true. Damage one of the most critical parts of the serpent's body. That's true, as per verse 15, and suffer some lesser harm in administering this blow. So there's going to be some descendant of Eve that's going to be a representative for all humans, and they're going to damage one of the most critical parts of the serpent's body, which is the head. And in doing this, he will suffer some lesser harm in administering the blow, like with his heel. Obviously, a head injury is more dangerous than a heel injury. And also keep in mind that the descendant will be from Eve. Normally in the Bible, descendants come from the male side, but this descendant is going to be from Eve, from the woman's seed. So there's not going to be any male seed involved, and we'll see why that is important later. After Adam and Eve attempted to cover their guilt and shame with fig leaves, God graciously replaced the leaves with clothing he made from animal skins. So right after Adam and Eve sinned, right after they ate of the fruit, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 7, it says, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings." Now we're going to read another verse, and let's notice two differences between these verses. In this verse, in verse 7, they sinned, their eyes were open, they knew that they were naked, they sewed fig leaves together to make covering for themselves. Then in verse 21, it's after God gives all the judgment for Adam, Eve, and the serpent, then it says, "Also for Adam and his wife the Lord God made tunics of skin and clothed them." So what are the two differences in those verses? Well, the first verse, Adam and Eve made the coverings. The second verse, God made the coverings. And then in the first verse, when Adam and Eve made them, it was out of fig tree leaves. So obviously it's going to be kind of fragile. They're not going to last long at all. But then when God made them, he used animal skins. And since he used animal skins, God could have just created the animal skins out of nothing, just like he created animals. But we probably know that he had to kill animals to get those animal skins. And that was really hard for Adam and Eve. Why? Because they were given the task of taking care of these animals, and then they disobey God, and as a result, when God said they would surely die, they knew that they would die in the future, that they were separated from God, but they also saw death in animals. So it was very real for them. And another true or false question here, based upon what we know that God did for them, it seems that Adam and Eve's loss of innocence was permanent. And that is true. They did lose their innocence. We're going to see in the next lesson that they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, which was God's paradise. It was perfect, but because of their sin, they couldn't live there anymore. They were no longer innocent. They were sinners, so they had to go out. But yeah, their loss of innocence was permanent. But it is neat to see that, even though they did sin, God graciously still provided something for them through the garments. And we'll see more in the future about God's grace, how we mess up as humans, but then God's grace provides a way.